Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into some tech ethics with me today?
Yeah.
It's wild how tech is everywhere, right? I mean, even right now, as we try to figure out all the ethical stuff about it,
Mm.
we're using all this high-tech gear to record a show about it. Kind of ironic, no?
Yeah, it really makes you think, huh? And the crazy part is how fast everything's changing, especially AI. It's like, are we really in control of this technology thing, or are we just along for the ride?
So let's get into this whole technology ethics thing. The stuff you sent me really pushes for ethical AI development, data privacy,
Hmm.
making sure tech helps people,
Hmm.
the feel-good stuff.
Right, but sometimes it feels like all this talk is just for show. Like maybe it's more about looking good than actually making a difference.
It's like putting lipstick on a pig, right? All this talk about responsible AI when they're still building algorithms to predict and mess with our behavior. And speaking of messing with us, one source mentioned that 65% of companies using AI say ethics is super important for their success. Is it really about ethics or just looking good for the public?
Exactly. It makes you wonder if all these ethical guidelines are just a way to keep people from freaking out while they do whatever they want.
It's like those old-timey snake oil salesmen, all smiles and promises while selling you something that probably doesn't work.
And this whole ethics versus control thing is really clear when you think about data privacy. One of the sources actually praises GDPR, that data privacy law. They say it protects our data. But is it really protecting us, or is it just making it okay to collect tons of data because now it's regulated?
Yeah, like saying we're from the government and we're here to help while they go through all your stuff.
And then there's this idea of tech helping us, which brings us to sustainable technology, right? Sounds great on the surface. Who wouldn't want a cleaner planet?
Yeah, saving the planet's all the rage now. But are these green things really about helping the planet? Or is it another way for companies and government to control stuff and tell us what to do?
It's something to think about, especially when you look at things like that signal system in Amsterdam. One of the sources talks about it as a good example of using data ethically to get citizens involved. But is it really about getting people involved, or is it just a fancy way of keeping tabs on everyone?
And what about that data exchange thing in Copenhagen? They say they're all about transparency, but it's still kind of creepy how much data they're collecting. Who knows how they'll use it all? It's like something out of Big Brother, isn't it?
It really is. These examples show how tricky it is to balance the good things technology promises with the potential for it to be misused, to control people, and to take away our freedom. It's like they're saying, trust us, we're the experts, while they're busy building systems to track everything we do and make us do what they want.
One of the sources even compared teaching a child to share to ethical AI. Pretty insulting, right? Like we're just little kids who need these all-knowing algorithms to tell us what to do.
It's so condescending. They talk about giving us power and progress, but they really just want to control us.
And they're really good at twisting words, right? They'll talk about transparency, but they're super secretive. They talk about inclusivity, but shut down anyone who disagrees with them.
This one source even tried to compare these ethical worries to things like bioethics and internet privacy, stuff we've dealt with before. Like it's all just part of progress. But are they really dealing with the issues or just trying to sweep them under the rug?
It's like they're saying, don't worry, we've learned from our mistakes, while they make the same mistakes but even bigger. They say they're protecting us from the dangers of tech, but they're the ones creating the new dangers.
And these so-called experts, like Luciano Floridi, who talk about needing to understand tech ethics, are they really trying to help us, or are they just getting us ready for a future where algorithms are constantly watching us and telling us what to do?
That's pretty scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
To think that everything we do could be controlled by these forces we don't understand.
And this whole ethical literacy thing always seems to come with calls for more collaboration. Public and private groups working together to set standards for responsible tech. But who gets to decide what's responsible? It's definitely not the average person.
Yeah, it's always the same story. The experts, the tech people, the elites.
Yeah.
They decide what's best for everyone else. And they'll point to statistics and polls to make it seem like they're just doing what people want.
Like this one source that talks about how a lot of people and tech leaders are worried about AI getting out of control. But instead of actually listening to those worries, they just use it as an excuse for more rules and more control.
It's like they create a problem just so they can be the ones to fix it.
Yeah, and this whole technology ethics thing feels like a big distraction from the real issues. They talk about fairness, but what they actually do is often completely unfair.
They offer us progress, but it always comes with strings attached.
It's time to see through their act. We need to take back control of our own lives. We need to question the motives of these people who say they're helping us. And we need to imagine a future where technology helps people and doesn't control them.
That's a great point. One of the sources actually praised Amsterdam's signal system and Copenhagen's data exchange as examples of ethical data use. But are they really ethical, or are they just another way to spy on people?
That's the question we need to keep asking. We can't just take their word for it. We need to look closer, figuring what they're really doing, and think about what it means to give up our data and our privacy.
It's like they're building this fancy cage for us, promising safety and comfort while they take away our freedom and make us all the same.
And the worst part is they make it seem like this is just how things have to be, like we have no choice. But what if we refuse?
Yeah.
What if we reject their fear-mongering and their promises and imagine a future where technology helps us be more free?
That's a future worth fighting for. A future where we have control over our own lives and can decide our own fate. You mentioned another initiative before, Deutsche Telekom's My Smart Life. The source talked about it as a way to make cities more sustainable. But again, who gets to decide what's smart and sustainable?
Exactly. It's important to remember that these initiatives that sound good might actually be pushing someone else's agenda. We need to be careful about these tech solutions that claim to be good for everyone.
It's like they want everyone to think and act the same way, all perfectly controlled by their algorithms.
It would be a world without differences, without new ideas, without creativity.
It's ironic, isn't it? They say they're all about progress, but their vision of the future sounds pretty boring.
And they always use statistics to try to prove their point, right?
Yeah.
Like the source that brags about how many people are worried about the ethical implications of technology. But then they use that worry to justify taking more control.
It's like they're playing a game with us. They create a problem and then act like they're the only ones who can fix it. They make us scared and then act like they're the heroes. But they're usually the ones who cause the problems in the first place.
This whole technology ethics thing is a smokescreen. They talk about fairness, but they don't act fairly.
They offer progress, but always at a price. We need to see through their lies.
We need to remember that technology isn't good or bad on its own. It's just a tool. It depends on who's using it and why.
That's the real question we need to be asking. We need to take back control and demand a future where technology helps people, not the other way around. It feels like we're on this crazy seesaw, On one side, there's all this amazing technology and what it could do, and on the other, there's this fear of being totally controlled.
Yeah, and the path we pick now is going to be huge for humanity. Do we use tech to free ourselves or let it turn against us?
One source talked about creating ethical rules for technology. But rules are only as good as the people who make them, right?
Yeah.
If those people are greedy or power hungry, they'll just use the rules to get what they want.
Exactly. That's why we have to be really careful. We can't just trust these people who are shaping the future of tech. We need to make sure they're being honest and using tech for good.
It's like that saying, who watches the watchman? If the people who are supposed to be in charge of tech are messed up, then what hope do we have?
Exactly. We have to be careful, learn as much as we can, and talk about what tech means for us. We can't just sit back and watch. We have to get involved.
One of your sources was all optimistic about tech solving all our problems.
Yeah,
But tech isn't some kind of magic solution, is it?
definitely not. It all comes down to using it the right way, thinking about what could go wrong, and making sure it helps everyone. We got to stop thinking tech is always good and start paying attention to how it's being used.
It's not about saying no to technology, right? It's about being smart, choosing tech that matches our values, and making sure it helps everyone.
It's about taking control, making our own choices, deciding our own future, creating a future where technology helps us, not the other way around.
So what now? How do we make sure technology is a force for good? It seems impossible.
It's tough, yeah, but we can do it. First, we got to learn, understand how tech works, what it can do, how it can be used to trick us.
And we can't just believe everything we hear,
Right.
especially from people in power. We need to find different opinions and really talk about how tech is affecting us.
For sure. We also need to support people and groups who are pushing for ethical tech. And we have to demand that the people in charge of tech are open and honest with us.
Most importantly, we can't forget that we have the power to shape the future. Tech isn't fate. It's a tool, and we decide how to use it.
We can use it to create a world where everyone can succeed, a world where tech helps us connect with each other, be creative, and build a better future.
Wow, this deep dive has really made me think. We're at a turning point, and the choices we make now will change everything.
But we do have the power to change things. We can just let tech happen to us, or we can demand that it be used for good. It's our choice.
Let's choose wisely.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive today. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next time.